Hey, welcome to a rewind episode of Leading Thriving Cities. Occasionally, we like to go back into the library and grab some interviews that we absolutely loved and present them to you again. So thank you for joining us on Leading Thriving Cities. Enjoy this episode. Hey everybody, welcome back to Leading Thriving Cities, our new show where we want to shine a spotlight on leadership in public service and have deep conversations about how we create a sustainable future for our cities. My name is Chad Wright. I'm the founder of Forward Partners. Our guest today is Chief Alan Banks from the Round Rock Police Department. I love this conversation where we really dive deep into what a calling law enforcement work is and how important it is to really go out and connect deeply with the citizens that you serve. We really get into some topics about how we care for ourselves and the need to disconnect and how incredibly difficult that is. I'll tell you, from knowing Chief Banks for a while and working with his team, they have made some huge strides towards this, and you're going to find all that in this conversation. I cannot wait for you to hear it. Thanks for joining us on Leading Thriving Cities. Chief Banks, thanks for joining us on Leading Thriving Cities. We're super glad to have you here. You come to us from Round Rock Police Department.
Yes, sir.
And you said you've been there about a decade, right?
That is correct.
Okay, so as a chief of police, what is one thing you really wish people understood about that job?
You know, one of the things I tell people, it's not an easy job. It's a role that you take on. You have to have a passion to do it. If you're there just for a paycheck, you're in the wrong profession and in the wrong position. This was my calling. I love what I do. I love being around the people that I work with and the people that I serve with, and so I want people to understand it's not an easy job, but it's one that I absolutely love.
Is the people side the passion for you?
You know, I think the whole thing is the passion for me. It's just taking care of my community. Now 32 years in the profession itself, and I knew since the third grade this is where I was asked to be, and I was asked by God to come into this position.
Okay.
When I was in the third grade, and I led my life into coming into being a police officer. So in 21 years old, that's when I started.
So this is always the track you've been on then?
It has.
Interesting. Was there ever a time you explored anything else?
Never.
Okay.
Never. Now, the funny part about it is I was afraid to tell my mom I was going into law enforcement, so I kept telling her I'm going into law. Now, I didn't lie to her, right? I didn't lie. I just didn't tell her law meant policing.
Are you a fellow mama's boy?
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
I always wanted to be a cop, and my mom put her foot down. She's like, "No, you're not doing that."
No, and so when I decided to join the police department, my grandmother and my mom who raised us, I had to tell them, I'm dropping out of college with a full scholarship. My third year in to be a police officer, and so praying about it, God said, take them to a very public place. So I took them to a restaurant. I told the hostess to seat us right in the middle of the restaurant. And
potential violence lower if you were in a restaurant?
I was going to get a beat down.
Yep.
I was going to get a beat down. So, so mom and my grandmother were understandable to my calling.
Okay.
And both of them, one of the things my grandmother told me was, all I ask you to do is go back and get your degree, finish it up and get your degree.
Yeah.
And my mom, who did not like the idea, says, who am I to go against what God wants you to do? And so I joined the police department, and after I got on my own, after on-the-job training, I took my mom on a ride-along. Every weekend she wanted to go on a ride. I finally had to tell her, Mom, you can't go anymore. You got to take a break. I have to go out and police.
Bring your mom to work day can't be every day, right?
So she's been very supportive ever since and loves it and knows this is my calling.
That's one of the things I've loved about being involved in law enforcement is going on ride-alongs and getting to know the people involved. And I never thought take my mom on one of those. I should actually do that. That would be
You should,
great.
Absolutely, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
That's so funny. So did you eventually go back and finish that degree?
I did. Not only did I go back and get my bachelor's degree, but I just recently got my master's degree. And so I upheld my grandmother's wishes. I finished my bachelor's before she passed, and I know she's proud that I finished my master's.
She get to watch you walk across the stage?
She absolutely did.
That's awesome.
That was, for me, one of the things is you honor your family by doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. She asked me, and I did it.
I love that. And this is a job that you are constantly learning new things in, even after 30 plus years in law enforcement, right?
Every day's new.
Yeah.
Every day's new, and something comes up, and it's you have to adjust and be adaptable to the environment, what comes at you, and so every day you're learning.
Y'all recently had a kind of a tragedy in Round Rock. Through that process, I'm sure you were still constantly learning things. Had you ever experienced anything like that as a chief before?
So coming into Round Rock, I came from Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Okay.
Much larger city, kind of very similar to Austin. And so I seen a lot of critical incidents in Albuquerque, and so I think that really prepared me for what happened during our Juneteenth incident.
Yeah.
Very tragic. Wish it never happened in Round Rock. It was unfortunate, but I'll tell you, the officers, the EMTs, the fire department, everybody handled that so professionally, and I couldn't be more proud of how they handled it, even through the tragedy.
Yeah.
And thanks for bringing that up. But I tell you, our thoughts and prayers still with the victims and victims' families in that tragedy. But yeah, absolutely, you still learn from it, and you still want to make sure you do better, and make sure we try not to let this happen again in our city.
Yeah. And being a lifelong learner like that, I've learned is such a big part of leadership, of experiencing something and understanding what positive can we pull out of this for the future. That's so much of leadership is processing things, right? It's processing, here's what happened, now what do we take out of this in order to equip ourselves better? Because you're right, I watched your team kind of from a distance as they walked through all this and spoke to a couple of them, and they really were focused and really doing such good work.
And they are, and a lot of that is learning. You can read a book all day long about leadership, and that's really not going to make you or define you as a great leader. And
Yes.
so really going out and doing the job and the hands-on
Yes.
is what's going to help you become a better leader. And I tell you, my men and women of this department did an amazing job that night.
Yeah.
The fact that all I really had to do was deal with the media and deal with the mayor, city management, stuff like that, and let them do the work.
Yeah.
It was good to see. And so I'm confident that any other tragedy we have, they're just going to handle it like true leaders. Yeah, absolutely.
And it was interesting, as they're doing the work, I was having a conversation with Chief Richards. I just texted one day to see how he was doing. And he said, we're really focused on doing the work, doing it well, but also we're taking care of our officers in the middle of this. We're making sure they are getting breaks, they're getting rest, they're taking care of themselves in the middle of some of the most important work they'll ever do in their lives. And I loved that tension of we've got to do the best job we possibly can. We also got to take care of ourselves in the process. And so that was it was a beautiful conversation, because most departments are not to that point of realizing you got to do both.
You have to, and you're absolutely right with that. And I went to training out in Quantico, Virginia, and I listened to a 3-star general talk about leadership, and he talked about what makes a good leader. And what he said was, when you're out in a mission, you come back, you let your troops eat first. And I took that and learned from it. And what I said is, I want to be a good leader, and I want to, but I just don't want to be a good leader. I want to be a great leader. How do I make myself a great leader? Not only do you allow your troops to eat first, but when you get in that mess hall or that cafeteria and your plate of food is sitting there waiting for you, that makes you a great leader, because they trust you. And the reason they trust you is because you give them that opportunity to learn from you. And part of that, like Assistant Chief Richards said, is we got to make sure we take care of our people. And if we're taking care of them, they're going to believe in you and trust in your leadership.
Yes, absolutely. And it's funny how that is the care for your own people is what really starts to create that great team. But it has to come from a place of love, from a place of calling. And it's interesting you brought up calling at the very beginning, because we're big advocates of, you really got to not just love what you do, but the people you do it with.
100%.
And if you are in a position where you're leading an entire organization, you only have some of those people for a very limited time. And your job is to help develop them and care for them in the process, and make sure that they are leaving better off than when they showed up. And that's there's an art form to that, right? But it has to come from love.
And it does. And they have to show, you have to show that compassion, that love for them. And you want to surround yourself with great people. And just as important, you got to take care of yourself as a leader as well. And so there's those tough days, but your folks will take care of you. If you're taking care of them, they will take care of you. And that's just as important.
So I'm interested, our second question we always cover is, what's kind of an internal challenge you've had to overcome in yourself in order to get where you are? And I'm curious if one of those challenges is not around the rhythms of how you care for yourself. Because you and I were raised in similar generations of, you put your head down and you run through the wall no matter what. And that's our only move.
Right.
And I've heard about some of the things you have done internally in the department about self-care and about making sure your chiefs are taking off and your people are really taking time to disconnect. So what did you have to overcome to get to this point of valuing that?
And I will tell you, that's the hardest thing for me is I don't practice what I preach, and I'm really working on that. I will take care of everybody else. I will preach and I will get on my employees about taking time off and to get away from all of it and just disconnect. I get on them all, but I don't do it. I don't do it. And so it's something I'm really working on in these next couple of years, is really just to disconnect. And it's hard because you want to take care of people. And for me, my calling right now in Round Rock is taking care of not only the community, but the internal.
Yes.
And I feel I need to be there to do that. But I also, I surrounded myself with a great team, 2 great assistant chiefs, Willie Richards and Justin Carmichael. And I know they can do the job and they can be there when I'm gone and taking vacation. So I'm working on that. But that's the hardest thing for me. I'm not there yet, but I'm trying to get there. So it's tough.
It's an ongoing practice, right? Because it goes against everything we were ever taught coming up, right? And so that makes it even more difficult to do. And I've seen how you valued that with your people in terms of making sure they disconnect. And ultimately for us, it's one thing to say, I need you guys to do it. It's a whole nother one to demonstrate it, to model it. You look at how we parent, right? We try to tell our kids so much, but ultimately whatever we do is what they follow.
Absolutely.
And I think everything in leadership comes back to marriage and parenting. And so ultimately we are parenting these folks, and ultimately they're going to do what we model. And so I think that's the path of getting from where you're at, which is, I think, a department that's starting to embrace this idea to one that fully embraces it. It's going to be you leading the way and saying, I love y'all. I'm not going to see you for a week, and I trust these guys to take care of it.
And that's the point I'm getting to right now. I'm really working hard on that. And, I got a group of folks that are telling me every week, Chief, you need to take a break. Chief, you need to take a break. And so they're taking care of me as well. And that's what I love about them, is they want to make sure that I'm good.
So when's that next vacation you got planned?
I just went to Park City, Utah. I took my wife there for a week. So I'm working on it. Absolutely.
I've always had this vision of gathering chiefs for a weekend and just have 10 police chiefs in the room and say, none of you are allowed to even touch a cell phone. Good luck. Short of something happening in your city that they will reach out to you for, you are not allowed to touch a cell phone, and just see what happens. Just set up cameras and watch.
You want a room of crazy people, you're going to get it. You're going to get it.
Yep.
Yeah, that'd be tough.
Absolutely. Outside of rest, was there anything else you had to wrestle with kind of internally as you were coming up as an officer?
Wow. Really to wrestle with is going back into my community and trying to help my community. Growing up in Albuquerque, and probably the poorest part of the city, growing up with not a whole lot. My mom and then my stepdad and my grandmother really tried their hardest to raise 4 kids. Is very difficult, and so we were latchkey kids because they were both working jobs. My grandmother was working into her 80s. She was working.
Oh, wow.
So for me internally is getting back into my community and kind of helping those kids and making sure that they knew that they didn't need to be a statistic, but I needed them to trust me and believe in me because I came from that same neighborhood that they're now growing up in. And letting them know that, don't let the outside world tell you can't do it, but you actually can do it. And it's all about decision and choices you make in your own life. And don't let anybody dictate that. So trying to deal with that and going back in those neighborhoods and trying to help and make a difference, but also trying to be a police officer and take those to jail that needed to go to jail in that same neighborhood.
That's a hard line to walk, isn't it? Because you're trying to earn trust, but also you have to hold people accountable.
For sure.
That's really interesting. So as you're on that journey, was there any particular stories that stood out to you of kids that actually heard you and changed the course of their futures with the choices they were making in that moment?
And I helped a lot of kids and a lot of folks in those neighborhoods, and there's sometimes that you'll plant those seeds and you'll never be able to use that shade tree, but they're there.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. I went out and did my best, and I said this was my calling. God put me in this position for a reason. And I'll tell you, the respect that I had throughout the community, I think was evident. And so I worked my way up to be the interim chief before I left in 2014.
Oh, wow.
And so it was working hard and trying to make a difference in my community back in Albuquerque. And
so you were with that one department from rookie patrol officer all the way up to interim police chief.
That is absolutely correct. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. 22 years.
Yeah. You saw a lot through the course of that. You saw policing start to even transform through that time, didn't
you? Absolutely. A lot of different trends. Even here, since 2014 to now, you see different trends in policing.
Yeah.
We can go back to 2014. As a matter of fact, it was the Ferguson, I think it's the anniversary of the Ferguson, the Michael Brown incident that happened down there, and you've seen a lot of change in law enforcement since there. So me as a leader, those are the things that I look at, and how can we be better? How can we be ahead? And I can tell you we're ahead of a lot of police department, a lot of agencies, and it's because of the work of the folks in my agency.
Yeah. A lot of that is big picture focused.
Correct.
So do you spend most of your time on that big picture and then occasionally get down into the weeds?
You have to. You have to be in that big picture, and you have to look and see what best practices are and what's going on around you. To avoid those roadblocks and those road mines, or landmines. And if you don't, you're going to get in that rut and that silo, and it's not going to go well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. The other thing I've been really impressed by is the relationship that you have with all the other area chiefs, that y'all have kind of built this group that you talk regularly, you're supporting each other. Anytime there's a OIS, I know y'all are immediately texting each other, what do you need, how can I help? And so is that unusual for metro areas like this for the chiefs to really bond tightly together, or is that something that happens pretty naturally?
No, it doesn't. We always have those rivalries, and you want your agency better than others, and you get into silos. And you talked about the OIS, the officer-involved shootings, because there's agencies, I've been through it in Albuquerque, come from me. So there's some chiefs here that have never been through an officer-involved shooting, and so I encourage them to reach out to me, let me help them through and walk through it. Pick my brain to see what you need to do and shouldn't do. And that's what makes us such a strong community, and meaning all the local agencies, is because we feel comfortable reaching out to each other. And other agencies in other cities don't do it, and that's unfortunate. We need to get back to that because we have to take care of each other.
Yeah, what's interesting is it's one of those things that I know y'all schedules, they're crazy all the time, right?
Right.
So finding time to get 5, 6, 7 police chiefs in one room for time to gather and just kind of talk to each other is always really hard to do.
Right.
But it's some of the most vital work y'all do, because then when things actually do go wrong, you've got support. You're not by yourself. Because as a police chief at the top of an organization, like you're alone sometimes in that looking around. And so if there's other chiefs that can come alongside, that's very important work.
The good thing about it, we might not be able to get in the same room, but, text threads, phone calls, and that's important. Just get on the phone and call me and ask me the question. And so we do that. And we take care of not just when we have a critical incident, but more importantly, just to call and check on each other. And I think that's very important, because people have not walked in my shoes and don't know what it is to be a leader of an organization, a police organization.
Yeah.
And I'll tell people, I don't even want you to walk in my shoes. Just step in my shoes and stand there for a minute. That's all I ask you
Just
to
see
do.
what it's like.
Just see what it's like, absolutely.
That's part of why we do this show in the first place. Is part of it is helping public servants know we're not alone, that there are other people dealing with exactly what you're dealing with, but also for the public to see it and go, oh, that's what they actually do.
Absolutely.
I've always found that idea very interesting. And I think the support idea of how y'all band together just to check on each other is vital, because I don't know that we're always good at saying, hey, Chief Banks, I need help. I'm struggling a little bit. But if you're proactively reaching out and going, hey, Chief Harmon, how you doing? Chief O'Malley, what are you up to? What's going on right now? How can I help? There's a lot of value in that. There really is.
And there is, again, because we know what we're going through, right? Yep. And I've been there, done that, and so I'm going to try to keep you sane, because you will go crazy. But most importantly, your agencies need to see that you're running it with confidence. Yeah. And so if I can help you through that, then it's important. And it's not me telling them. I get phone calls from them too, saying, after our Juneteenth incident, every single one of them called me to check on me and see, and offer support. And so that's important for us.
Yeah. Something you mentioned right there is your agency needs to see you running things with confidence. What does it look like at your level to deploy enough vulnerability to say we don't have everything figured out, but we can figure it out if we work together, versus just going, we've got it all figured out, I got this. Like, I think that's where we can, in an unhealthy way, tend towards, versus I don't have it all figured out, but I got the team around me, I got the people around me to make this happen. Do you struggle with that one way or the other sometimes?
Not at all. Not at all. If you go into it with arrogance, then you're going to fail as a leader. You have to be vulnerable. Yeah. I don't have all the answers. I don't have all the equipment. And so I will reach out and ask for assistance and ask for help. Yeah. Most importantly, we tell our officers and our civilian employees, mentally, if you need help, you need to step up and let us know and let us help you. I mean, it goes the same way. You don't have all the answers, nor should you. Yeah. reach out to those that know better than you, because my skill sets, there's things I can do that I know someone else can't do, but they can do something that I can't do. And I think what makes us such a great area, a good community, is that every single one of us can help each other and support each other. And I think we're stronger that way.
Well, and part of what, again, the things that we're kind of taught by society that are not actually helpful, one of them is that vulnerability is weakness.
Correct.
And that is drilled into us just in society. It's drilled into y'all when you're in the academy. If you're vulnerable out on the street, you're in trouble. You're unsafe. So over time, you have to kind of unwind that and learn to be vulnerable. As you've gone on this journey of being a leader who can be vulnerable in the right ways, how have people below you responded to that? When a chief says, I don't have it all figured out, or I do need help, how do they respond?
You know, I think they respond very positively because they see the human side of me, and that's what I want them to see. I don't have all the answers. I'm not sitting on this pedestal saying that here I am, God, I'm crowning myself. That's not who I am.
Yeah.
And I get involved with what they do as well. If I ask them to do it, I'm going to do it. I don't get 100% every time I go out and do my qualification shoot. I don't, right? And so, but I've been around guns, 32 years. I've had to do a qualification every year, and I still don't get 100. I need them to see that, so I will shoot with them. I'm not that one that
you're not
my
going to hide
special
it.
day. I'm not going to hide. We're gonna shoot at the same time. I want them to see my score.
Yes.
Same with physical fitness. We're required to pass at a certain. I want them to see my scores because I needed to see them. I don't forget where I come from, and just because I'm chief doesn't mean I'm better or higher, or I'm going to hide from anybody. I need them to see that vulnerability, and I think they respect that because then that allows them to expose their vulnerabilities.
Yes.
One of the things I tell my folks all the time is it's okay to shake hands with people. It's okay to get down on your knee and shake hands with a little kid that just loves you, adores you, and respects you.
You were that kid at one point.
And I absolutely was that kid, absolutely. And so I need them to be okay with that, and because we're humans and we have a heart, and I need them to show that.
I appreciate that answer because I think there's, again, if we're afraid to be vulnerable, we're afraid of other people's responses to it, right?
Absolutely.
I think the fear is that we show some kind of vulnerability, some kind of weakness, and they're immediately going to seize on that and go, well, I'm not going to follow you anymore. And the reality is exactly what you said. They follow you in an even deeper way because they see it's okay to be human.
For sure.
And that is a lot of this is helping them understand how do we navigate one of the hardest jobs on the planet as human beings, as people who do feel. We are not robots. And so how do we do that? And that vulnerability is where they see that versus us just putting on a mask and going, I got it all no matter what. That's not helpful even though we're taught it is.
And especially in this profession, right?
Yeah.
We got to be the strong ones. We got to be the lions of our communities. And we don't always have to be the lions and the warriors of our community. Sometimes we need to be the guardians and the angels of our community. And sometimes we need to cry with people.
Yeah.
Sometimes we need to put our arms around their shoulders and tell them it's okay and that we feel their pain. And sometimes we go through tragedies as well ourselves within our personal lives. And it's okay to release. And so that's where it starts. It starts at the top to say it's okay.
Yeah.
All right. Because I've done many events where I've shown my passion and I've shed some tears in those events in front of a large crowd.
That was literally going to be my next question was have your people seen it modeled? And
Absolutely.
It sounds like they have.
Absolutely.
One of the things you said there is we have to be the strong ones. And I think part of it is redefining what strong means.
For sure.
That it is not being invulnerable, that it is being vulnerable, it is hurting, but also still doing the courageous thing despite the hurt, right? I think and asking for help is strength. It's not a weakness. I think that's the transformation I see happening in law enforcement over the next decades is moving more to that model of, no, we're humans, and if we don't care for us, we can't actually care for our community the way we think we are.
Absolutely. And the community needs to see that we're humans and not robots and that we care.
Yeah.
And that's what's the change. That's the change in policing now is where it was back in the day. Because I remember, we go back 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Policing was much, much different back then.
Yes.
And it can't be that way right now. And I think a lot of agencies have been exposed from the way they used to do stuff to now where we're at now. And I think community policing, and sometimes it's an overused term, but it has a very valuable role in law enforcement now. And even to the fact you take the word law enforcement and policing, and people will define there's two different roles there in those two words. And I truly believe there is.
Yeah. One of the things you said there is we have to show that we care.
Yes, sir.
And there is, what I've witnessed in police departments over time is it's a little bit like a middle school where there is sometimes this race to show who can be the most disengaged. Because if I'm disengaged and I'm not participating and I'm not answering the teacher's questions, then I'm cooler than everybody else, right? We learned that back in middle school where it wasn't cool to raise your hand and be like, hey, I kind of know the answer because I care. I've seen that culturally in some departments, and I think it's indicative of a lot of law enforcement. How do you break that down a little bit to say, no, it is actually really good to care. It is what we are called to. How have you worked on that over the years?
I think some of that is you get buy-in from your folks, and I shouldn't have all the answers, and I'm not giving all the direction and directives. I allow my officers to do that. Yeah, we are in the community. We do roughly 300 plus events, community events a year.
That's
and
a lot.
I want our officers and our civilian staff out with our community to hear from them, hear what they want, and then give that feedback to the community about what we do and why we do that, to include citizens police academies, junior police academies, and those type of events, so we bring people into our department. But in order for us to understand that, is they have to be the ones that make those decisions and show that who they are, and it's not being that robot, and it shouldn't always come from the office of the chief, and
That's
it shouldn't always be
interesting.
me. So, and I tell my folks, you guys come up with ideas and decisions and send them up to me and let me see them. If I think they're good, we'll go forward. If not, we will figure out a way to see how we can make it work, as opposed to no. Then they don't want to do anything. They back away, and you go ahead, chief, you handle it, and then they become closed off, and they become those robots, and they don't want to participate and be involved in it. I can't have that. What I want is I want them to understand what the badge and the patch mean to our community.
That's really interesting, because if you look at statistics on burnout, people that are disengaged from their work are historically far more burned out than people that are engaged.
Absolutely.
People that are showing up for a reason are far less likely to burn out, and you're giving them that.
We had our Step Into Success event this past weekend.
I saw that on LinkedIn. Yeah,
883 kids that we gave a brand new pair of shoes to. I had the SWAT team in there painting fingernails of little young ladies. You'll never see a SWAT team painting fingernails.
That's
for
amazing.
Young girls, right?
Yeah.
But that's the culture we want.
Yeah.
That's the police officers that we want. That's the vulnerability we want and need and deserve in law enforcement.
I love that.
And so, but again, they want to be there to do that because that's what they believe in. That's what our police department's about.
I love that.
Sure.
So we've talked a lot about how policing has changed dramatically in your career. It's changed dramatically in the last few years.
Yeah.
If you're talking to somebody who's thinking about getting into public service, specifically law enforcement, what advice would you have for them?
I would tell them, make sure it's their passion. Don't get into it because you want a paycheck or you can't get a job somewhere else. This has to be a passion. And I will tell you, I can see through it. If you're sitting in front of me in a job interview, and this, for me, it's a career interview or a great opportunity. Yeah. And if you're here just for the paycheck, I'll see through that. And I don't want you a part of this team. Yeah. 32 years in this profession, this badge and this patch means something to me, especially this uniform. And so I want people with the heart of service for their community.
Yeah. That's great. I love that, because there are a lot that I think get into it initially because it looks exciting.
Correct.
But even looking exciting is not about passionate for service, right?
And it's not. And so you see it on TV, right? And so it looks cool. You get the lights and sirens. Well, I can tell you, it's not lights and sirens every single day.
No.
And if you think it's going to be that exciting for you, then this isn't the job for you. And I'll tell people, we want the best qualified people who want to take care of their community, have a servant's heart to be in this uniform. And not only for sworn, we want civilian staff as well that have that servant's heart that can serve.
Absolutely, because they're often the backbone that allows the officers to go out and even do their job.
100%. 100%. Could you imagine, our dispatch, I talk about our dispatchers all the time, the unsung heroes.
Yes.
I can't imagine getting a phone call talking about, my 3-year-old's not breathing, and they're trying to help over a telephone. The officers and paramedics get there, or EMTs, and they hang up the phone and they don't get the follow-up on that, and that's something they have to live with, right? Very rare do they get that follow-up.
I'm curious your take on something. I've kind of had this theory over time that here's the amount of stress, trauma, everything a police officer deals with, and they're paid at this level, right? Dispatchers, the stress and trauma is pretty close, but the pay is often not.
Right.
Are you seeing departments and cities start to recognize that and start to work on that a little bit?
I wish they would do it more. here's one of the things I'll give the state of Texas, and I really appreciate it, is they recognize our dispatchers as public safety now.
Good.
And so now they get certain benefits as a result, which
that's
is
amazing.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Now the pay equity on that, no, it's not the same. But different type of incentives I think do help and try to merge that gap just a little bit. But we have to recognize the service that these men and women give to their cities for sure.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. Well, and that kind of leads us to our last question, because part of the reason we want to have these conversations is to start a much broader conversation about the fact that what we're doing in public service right now is not sustainable. We are doing way too much with way too little.
Right.
And the dispatchers are a very good example of that, right? What do we need to rethink in terms of public service to create a sustainable future for our teams?
That's a good question, and I wish I had a great answer for that. And I think we need to make sure we continue to take care of what we have right now and sustain that. I think we put too much on law enforcement. I think we become the default police. My son didn't do his homework last night, and I need the police to come to my house.
I have been on some of those calls on ride-alongs. It's very interesting.
And it is, and I think we need to redefine what law enforcement and what policing is really about. And we have a great program, and it's our crisis response unit under our fire department now. So they are dealing a lot with the mental health calls and taking us away from those mental health calls.
Yeah.
So I think we need to look at how we are doing policing and get us out of those mundane calls, those calls we should not go to.
Yeah.
And
and time after time, it's mundane calls, but also calls that you're not necessarily equipped or ready to actually deal with, but for some reason it has fallen into the police bucket.
The default police, and you're absolutely right. And I wouldn't say we're not ready to deal with. I think we pretty much deal with most anything, but we shouldn't be dealing with it.
Right. You may not be the right person to deal with it necessarily, but you are on that scene ready to go.
And we are. And I tell you, in 32 years, I've worn many hats. I've been a lawyer. I've been a marriage counselor. I've been a financial advisor. I mean, you name it, I've probably worn those hats, right?
Yes.
I just want to be a police officer that takes care of my community, which I signed up to do. But those other, I know it comes along with it, but we need to redefine and make sure that we have the resources available to our community to take care of them, and it shouldn't always be default police.
So does some of that that future that we want to create that we're talking about here, does some of it come from really strong relationship between the police chief and the city manager's office to be able to say, okay, let's define what we are really, really called to do and what we're great at. Let's define things other people should handle, and let's build out those resources. Is that a conversation you all have in Round Rock?
We do, and that I talked about the crisis response unit. City council, our city manager listened to our idea. And I say it's our fire chief will be yelling at me right now. But so it was an idea that they listened to, and now it was $1 million a venture that they started, and that's working real well because it reduces our calls for service because we're not having to respond to that. But we have a great city manager. We have a great council that have listened to our ideas. That has helped us in regards to how we're doing business now. And it takes, you go to our neighbors to the south, it's more difficult than it is, with us. Just different ways of doing business. And it's not new to me. I've been doing this a very long time. And I come from Albuquerque, which was a strong mayor form of government. Okay. Now I'm in a city manager form of
council,
government. So it's much different in how we do business. But you're absolutely correct. That's the way, we have to be in front of our legislation or legislatures telling them, this works and this doesn't. Don't just make laws if you never stepped into my shoes thinking this is the best for our community when in fact it's not.
One of the things that's interesting is I see sometimes in cities where the police department essentially becomes siloed. We're the police department. We're going to do police things. It's our way. And then there's the rest of the city. But ultimately, to get really progressive things done, to say, you know what, we've got this idea and we want to create this thing, it requires the entire city, right? It requires a great partnership with the fire department, as hard as that is, because it's fire. I get that. It requires that good relationship with the city manager's office, especially with the city council. Have you done anything in particular to really strengthen those relationships, or is it just kind of naturally how you operate?
That's just naturally how we operate. And I'll tell you, our city manager is really good. We meet every single Friday, every director. We're in the same room, and we're talking about what's going on in the city. Yeah. And when we've had these natural disasters, we've had ice storms, tornadoes, we've had COVID that hit us.
Y'all had everything over the last 5 years, haven't you?
We have. I think we've experienced. We have the most experience out of any Central Texas agency.
You really do.
But we've all just worked so well together, and I think it's because that we meet every Friday and we have those conversations and we have those relationships with each other, and so it's worked really well for us.
Okay, that's really, really interesting. I like that because that is part of how a team gets really strong together is we spend time together.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. Chief Banks, this has been a phenomenal conversation. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us for Leading Thriving Cities. We are dedicated to giving away everything we teach and, importantly, everything we learn while we're on the ground partnering with cities to develop healthy leaders and thriving teams. You can find all of that leadership development content on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Just search for @ForwardPartner. You can also find more information about what we do at forwardpartners.net.